Listen to how they frame Karl-Anthony Towns here. The argument is that his biggest postseason value wasn't just points, it was accepting a role most NBA stars would fight against.
Yeah, he did make it simple. And look, and I'm not, and I'm just trying to, what I'm really trying to do here is just show some praise for OG because
Yeah.
that's the level he had just played at. And he was good in the first two games too, but he was sensational in games 3 and 4. In fact, we're going to talk about that tip in till the end of time. Like, my first grandchild was born like 2 months ago, and I said to somebody, when my grandson is 50, that play is going to be in the open for the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
It is. That's how iconic the play was. But I go back to where his shot making earlier in that game, if he doesn't carry them for a stretch offensively, it's not a 29-point deficit. It's a 40-point deficit.
That's right.
And now that's not happening.
Yeah.
29 still shouldn't have happened, but 40 ain't happening. And so I go back to that, keeping your head above water with his shot making. So his offense, his consistency, his efficiency, his shooting splits were insane throughout the postseason run. He is now, yes, he's elevated himself to where now going into next year, like he's genuinely a guy that because of his defense component, he's genuinely a guy that has a shot at making an all-league team.
And to round it out with the Knicks roster, I mean, Cat, I don't know that anybody has done more to not rehab the reputation, but to just elevate the reputation as he's done in New York. And, there's people that question him throughout his career. And I thought, even if it was just game one, coming out and bullying Wemby, I mean, they fucking needed that. And and he was in foul trouble a lot. And there were some games where late, I'm like, fourth quarter, he's taking 3 shots. I don't love that. But, like, his aggressiveness early in this series, it felt like he was the tone setter for this whole group.
Yeah, he went at Wemby, and I think it affected Wemby dramatically offensively.
Yeah.
Because he's not used to guys going at him to that extent. Karl-Anthony Towns, and you go back to the Oklahoma City series, you remember Chet, and like how he looked at the end of that series, particularly, he gets a shot blocked early in game 7, he gets dunked on early in game 7. He was shook. There's no other way to put it. He was shook. Took 2 shots in a game 7, and you remain third team All NBA. Okay, and go back to now game 1, Karl-Anthony Towns, one of his first drives against Wemby, beats him off the dribble on a closeout, thinks he's got a layup. Wemby comes from behind, blocks it out of bounds, and it was like, wow, we were marveling at this recovery length that he has. The very next time Karl-Anthony Towns caught the ball, he went right at him again and got to the rim this time and finished. And it just showed you the confidence, the tone, how physical he was going to be with him. He was going to go at him and it make him work. It affected him. Now, Karl-Anthony Towns had foul trouble issues from after game 2, basically the rest of the series. Wasn't as big of a factor offensively as he was earlier in the playoffs. Still a major reason why they won. And the one thing that never changes with him, he rebounds the ball whether he gets shots or not. I've loved that about him since he got to New York. His whole career, really. You can pencil in 10 to 15 rebounds, even if he's not getting a lot of shots. And some guys stop working on the glass if they're not touching the ball. So give him a lot of credit. The other thing that was amazing to me with the Knicks, when they went through this reinventing themselves against Atlanta, down 2-1, Mike Brown said a light bulb went off. We have to change our offense. Karl-Anthony Towns has to be more incorporated as a passer, take advantage of his size, his skill as a passer from the top of the key elbows. They did something very rare. They took a guy that's an all-star caliber player, and they somehow went to him and were like, hey, look, here's the plan. You're not going to get as many shots. You're not going to score as much, but you're going to be more important than ever. What do you think? And like, that's not a buy-in for guys in the NBA. Like, that's your sales pitch. But yet, because of who he is, he said, I always wanted to showcase my passing. I wanted to be considered that. So even though his shots went down, his inclusion went up. And as a result, his general vibe exuded positivity and confidence, and it changed the dynamic of their offense. It made Bridges a better off-ball cutter. To now, all of a sudden, he's putting up historic shooting splits for a wing for like a 10-game stretch. Anunoby, the same. So I give Cat credit because when your scoring numbers drop, your shots go down. Usually guys are ticked off about that, and maybe they mope a little bit. Maybe they don't rebound the same. They're not bought in mentally. It affects the locker room dynamic. None of that happened with him because all he wanted to do, be included and get credit for it, and he did. and it kind of changed their postseason trajectory as a team.
This is a fun topic for me because I think the NBA, and we alluded to it earlier, like, or at least I did, and I could be wrong, but I feel like the super team era is kind of, it's in the past, at least for now, where there's been a pivot to building the right way.
Yeah.
You know, and the Knicks are kind of an example of that. The Spurs are certainly an example of that. The Thunder are an example of that. You got three guys that played at Nova together. You know, and then you got one guy who's an Eagles fan and Karl-Anthony Towns. So you've got this Philly contingency. But what's it mean to have a team that's close in today's NBA? Because they're not all that way. It doesn't seem. And you got three guys that have been playing ball together for a long time, taught by one of the best coaches in college basketball history. And you talk about the making unselfish decisions that this team does. I mean, it just their character seems high. And
extremely high.
I think back to teams that, like, when I was growing up, not that I didn't love watching the Lakers or whoever it was, but like when the Pistons won, I don't know, it was 04 or something like that. I think I was in high school. I remember thinking, like, this is the most gritty, unselfish team. There's no quote unquote superstars. Maybe it's the Detroit thing that was kind of bleeding into the brand for me. But like, where do you put the Knicks in the pantheon of unselfish, gritty championship teams?
Yeah, they're gonna be a team that's gonna be looked at for a long, long time as having some of the best chemistry that you've had, and it's on and off the court. It's guys that grew up together because you kind of grow up those formative years, coming out of the AAU circuit into college, playing for a program that embodies what that's all about, and the selflessness with which you have to play, with which you have to adapt to certain ideologies from a coaching standpoint to fit in. And there were guys, not every guy that Jay Wright recruited did, and they didn't last very long. They didn't have success in that program because they couldn't adapt for the greater good. And that's what all of these guys knew how to do. And now you all come together on the same NBA team. And the only guy that you feel for a little bit is Dante DiVincenzo, who was that other Nick, that other Nova Nick that now ends up in Minnesota. And of course, he had a horrible, Achilles injury at the end of his season, right in front of us, 10 feet away from where we were sitting. And so you're sitting there looking at him and go, man, they almost had four of these guys. And Ryan Arcidiacono was on those teams as well, who was the point guard in the national championship that they won on Chris Jenkins' big shot. He was on the Knicks for a short period of time. So it was like Nova 2.0. But that matters. You carried these friendships that you had during those formative years. You know each other's families. You know their parents' first names. There is a connection and a bond and a chemistry that you have when you care about people on a human level. It carries over to how you feel about them on the basketball court, and the leadership qualities that they all have. It was incredible to watch.
Would you give KAT more credit for buying into fewer shots if it helped unlock the Knicks' offense? Leave your take in the comments and like and subscribe for more clips like this.